A very warm welcome back to your latest industry recap. There's some pretty sad news surrounding Lufthansa. Emirates is boosting Airbus A380 flights, and Cathay Pacific, or should I say the Cathay Group, has reached a fantastic moment in its overall recovery from the global pandemic. Let me begin though with the feature story. Lufthansa, who have published their second quarter results for 2024. Revenues increased by 7% to 10 billion euros. However, there were still some negatives that I'll discuss in a later video. The group attributes this successful quarter in terms of revenues because of the diversification it has been conducting and thus growth of its network, which equated to an expansion of 11%. The quarter, however, did present its challenges. As we know, the group continues to recover from earlier strike action, and rectifying of these contracts with personnel have meant that their operating costs have increased substantially, with a focus on the wages and bonuses as well as clauses internally with contracts. Furthermore, Lufthansa Group has been vocal that it's seen ticket prices normalise and yields decline across all traffic regions. The group is now assessing the pathway forward and believes it needs to implement a turnaround plan which will focus strictly on lowering costs as it fights to become more sustainable in the long term, something that, while this group is colossal in terms of its overall market share and stands within our industry, has struggled with. Lufthansa says it'll reduce the business to 6 long-haul aircraft types moving into the future, and as a result, decommissioning some existing Airbus and Boeing wide-bodies that have served the group for so long and many would consider to be icons. As part of the decommissioning, Lufthansa announced that the A340-300, the popular A340-600 and A330-200 that have been produced by Airbus and long operational will be removed from the fleet. Meanwhile, on the Boeing side of things, and if you're standing, sit down, because they confirmed the departure of the 747-400s will also occur. These changes are to be expected by 2028. Lufthansa Group has long been trying to stabilise the business, especially in recent years, but it's remained clear that it has been forced to retain these aforementioned aircraft, which are older in nature, because of supply chain difficulties that have led to the many aircraft delivery delays for next-gen planes that were intended to replace these old ones. The retention of older, and unfortunately in saying that, less efficient aircraft comes as the airline looks to mitigate the overall operational impact it has been facing, and obviously this extends further to financial impacts, and this is another element that the business has been very vocal about, discussing the hundreds of millions that it continues to lose because of all these delays. The hope is that with a stabilizing supply chain in the future, touch wood, the group will be able to retire these older planes as finally intended and fully transition to the 6 wide-body types that form the next-gen aircraft. Lufthansa Group has also unveiled some other changes, and I won't fully get into them. That can be for the second channel where I take more a look at analysis parts. Some of these changes will be key for the future, and that includes they want to increase overall revenue by delivering promises on that high-end premium product that has certainly received some raised eyebrows. While this product is going to get even more criticism with time, the standards of the group are high and they hope this will replicate that. Lastly, to enhance the product, there will be a focus on the optimization of the route network, unsurprisingly, to match seasonal levels of demand, greater crew planning systems, and improved digitalization of ground and air services will be implemented. Next on the list is taking a look at Emirates, and this is a rather short segment, but they're boosting their Airbus A380 flights. Truly a luxury that they're one of the few airlines that can actually do, thanks to their colossal commitment to the wide body, but they will be doubling their flying to Bali, and again, like I touched on, in the coming month, this will launch to match solely seasonal demand. So from September 1 through to October 27th of this calendar year, they will operate a second daily flight between Dubai and Bali with the utilization of the ever-popular A380. Emirates notes that it's seeing some pretty hefty levels of demand for the popular island, and this is during peak travel season, and as a result, they need a means to match this with a high-capacity plane. Well, lucky for them, they can achieve that by utilizing the A380, and they have so many units that it is possible for them to reshuffle their network, deploy 777s to other markets, and then jump that A380 onto a market that does truly need it. EK398-399 will see an Airbus A380 replace a 777 with service between Dubai and Bali between September 1 and October 27. Emirates launched its first Airbus A380 flight to Indonesia actually only on June 1, 2023, but since then it has been able to successfully drive traffic to Bali at the busiest times of the year, and obviously has been successful enough that now they want to go double. By offering these double flights, the airline says it's going to add more than 2,000 weekly seats, with a range obviously of options in available classes to meet that demand. As for the final story, well, Cathay Group, home to the likes of Cathay Pacific, has reached a significant milestone in its recovery from the pandemic, announcing the full repayment of the 19.5 billion investment from the government that it received during this disastrous time. Significant state aid was received to essentially recapitalise the group, which is very important, as we know, to not just Hong Kong, Asia, but the broader industry. Cathay says it was able to buy back the remaining 50%, equivalent to around HK 10 billion of preference shares issued by the government, with the initial 50% coming as part of a deal agreed in December of 2023. In addition to the repayment, Cathay Group was able to make its first dividend payment to ordinary shareholders, this for the first time in 2019, and this totaled HK 2.8 billion, a fantastic step in the recovery to show more and more that they are stabilising. Therefore, the group's ability to close this chapter is a major step in that rebuilding process, which has definitely had its fair share of bumps in the road. The support Cathay received is deemed crucial to the group's long-term future and to solidifying its spot within the industry. Despite this support, the airline group experienced its fair share of hardships, with many people still unclear, even despite the recapitalisation efforts, about if the restrictions did persist any longer, just how much more Cathay could withstand. They saw their passenger numbers drop well below 99% of its pre-pandemic figures, and this was for a prolonged period. As other markets recovered, Hong Kong and Cathay Pacific's network lagged. Now the group is committed to really turning the page on a chapter that will have taught it many things, but ultimately now one that it would like to forget rather quickly. Cathay says it wants to remain a driving force and do so positively to support Hong Kong's future growth and be a key for international aviation development long into the future. Being able to repay those recapitalization figures is a weight also off the shoulders of the airline group, and it can now progress with further investments in a business that'll actually benefit it for the long term. Cathay Group is interested in purchasing new aircraft to aid the future flying, and while this is still being negotiated, knowing that the paying off efforts are completed will provide greater confidence into the future. That is going to conclude today's aviation news recap. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. Please take care, be safe, and I'll see you same place, same time tomorrow for your latest industry recap.